Let's start by listening to the Truth of Ilwan song. I'm going to read it to you, and you can read it along with me, but I think you'll perhaps get a more of an impact by listening and reading than having to worry about speaking it. So I'll read it to you. The Truth of Ilwan song. Ilwan, one circle, is the original source of all things in the universe, the mind seal of all the Buddhas and sages, and the original nature of all sentient beings. The realm where there is no discrimination regarding great and small, being and non-being, the realm where there is no change amid arising and ceasing, coming and going, the realm where wholesome and unwholesome karmic consequences have ceased. The realm where language, names, and signs are utterly void. Through the light of the void and calm, numinous awareness, the discrimination regarding great and small, being and non-being appears, whereupon the distinction between wholesome and unwholesome karmic consequences comes into being. Language, names, and signs also become obvious, so that the triple worlds in the 10 directions appear like a jewel in hand. Thus the creative transformations of true voidness and marvelous existence freely conceal and reveal themselves through all things in the universe, throughout vast eons, without beginning. This is the truth of Ilwan song. As I began being interested in Won Buddhism, reading the scriptures, when I came across this passage, I thought that was great. That was wonderful. And I still do. And as when I was asked to do this talk on short notice, which has gotten longer since then, 3 weeks ago, some ideas and reflections about it popped into my mind, and I thought, well, this might be useful. So when we say the truth of Ilwan song, I thought, well, what do we mean by, I'm not going to get into a philosophical discussion, but what do we mean by truth? And as I've contemplated this over the last few weeks, one thing I think I realize is that it's not the same truth as truth of true and false. It's not like there's a false thing of Ilwan song. There's only the truth of Ilwan song. And the truth of Ilwan song is something that can't be given to you or learned. It's something that you have to realize. So the three truths of Ilwan song that I was referring to is the three levels of truth that are possible in learning Buddhism and are reflected in this passage. So the first level of truth is a faith-based truth. And a faith-based truth doesn't mean a blind faith truth, but rather that as we begin to come here, read the scriptures, learn about Won Buddhism, learn about Master Sotaesan, learn about what it is to be a Buddha, we begin to think, well, I don't know if I can do it, but that certainly sounds like a good idea. And we read this passage and we go, well, I don't know what that means. You know, and if you're me, you study lots of Buddhist scriptures, and you know, including our red book, and you refer to the Ilwan song vow, and you say, okay, maybe this has something to do with the idea of ultimate truth and relative truth that's talked about throughout the Buddhist scriptures, has to do with the idea of permanence and impermanence, that again, it fits with relative and ultimate truth. In the Ilwan song vow, it says it can be viewed as permanence and it can be viewed as impermanence. So maybe this passage is about both permanence and impermanence. And that's about as far as I can probably get with it. So that's what I would call a third-person truth, a truth that comes from the outside that, like most truth, is something you learn from somebody else. Becoming a Won Buddhist, learning this third-person truth can be very helpful in your life and make you want to get even more involved. So the first level of truth is what I would call third person or intellectual truth. And it's not to be knocked because almost everything we know is third person and intellectual truth, even though we don't necessarily think of it that way. But I think in reality, we didn't learn language because it came from the inside. We may have been prepared on the inside to learn language, but we got it from the outside. So then there's a second level that comes from contemplation, meditation, and perhaps intuition. And that's once we've begun to practice, we read the scriptures, we reflect, and we meditate, and perhaps we get a glimpse of this permanence and impermanence. We begin to get a glimpse of stuff in a way that is beyond speaking about it in a way, and beyond talking about rationally at least. It's kind of a feeling you have about what's real, what's not real, about who you are, who you're not, but not in the sense of false and true, but rather a sense of realization, perhaps. The second level of truth is kind of the beginning of a realized truth. And in this second level and in the first level, there's still the two truths. There's the truth of permanence and the truth of impermanence. And they're separate. And presumably, permanence is the ultimate truth. We want to realize it, but it looks far away. And yet, the other thing that the teachings teach us that help us to keep at it is that this permanent truth is something we're born with. You know, it's our original true nature, or it's our Buddha nature. We're born with Buddha nature. So all this truth is in us, but we have to get stuff out of the way to see it. And for me, the first and second level of truth, not that I've necessarily reached the second level, makes the question of how do they go from one to the other occur to me. And the explanation is very unclear to me. So through the light of the void and calm, numinous awareness, the discrimination regarding great and small, being and non-being appears. Through the light of the void and calm, numinous awareness is what makes the transition. Okay? This makes no sense to me at all. That's not a criticism. Numinous awareness sounds a lot like ultimate truth. Why does that result in the impermanence? Why does that result in karmic consequences? Why does it result in big and small, being and non-being? You know, why does it from this other realm where none of that exists and everything sounds ultimately wonderful? So I haven't figured it out, but in contemplating this, I have come to a different conclusion about it. And that's the third level of truth. At the level of a fully realized Tathagata or Buddha, there is no two truths. It's all one truth. And things are not divided up and things are not, one or the other. It's all of it all at the same time. That may not seem very helpful, but it does seem like a lot of our work in Won Buddhism is to learn to walk the path, use the practice to help ourselves in relative truth and relative reality, but get inspired working towards the realization of this ultimate truth that is a kind of oneness of everything, but doesn't exclude anything. I hope it's of some value, and thank you for listening.